Picture this, you're driving down the highway and come across a traffic jam. Adding further stress, you're now behind an 18-wheeler in bumper-to-bumper traffic. Right as you contemplate cutting off another car to go around this massive rig, you notice a digital display showing you an advertisement for headache powder. Did that trailer just read your mind, or are you witnessing the future of digital advertising? Truck drivers hope so. They can finally be paid more for this hauling things inside the trailer. Can the back of a trailer be a gold mine for carriers and advertisers? We'll find out in this episode of Loaded and Rolling. Welcome to Loaded and Rolling. I'm your host, Thomas Wasson. Trailers are good at hauling things, but recent trends in mobile ad technology are now opening new doors to allow them to also be drivable billboards. Most companies will try to wrap a trailer like a fancy candy bar, but this process is costly and time-consuming, especially if the branding changes. But one company is pioneering a new way with digital billboards attached to trailers powered by the cloud. They're using a digital LED display paired with software solutions to change the way we view on-road advertising. Joining me to talk about the coming trucking trailer digital advertising revolution is Dustin Cox, Chief Revenue Officer with Adload, an end-to-end digital out-of-home platform using trailers to help advertisers reach audiences. Welcome, Dustin.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Happy to have you on the show. You know, it's post-Thanksgiving, so finally, I think I finally digested all the turkey I ate over the past few days, but kind of digging into this platform as well, what's the origin story? What kind of got everybody into, digital advertising on trailers?
Yeah, so we all kind of come from the transportation background. So I spent the majority of my career at Coyote Logistics, then changed into Mastery Logistics. So we have a great understanding of kind of the logistics industry in general. But one of our co-founders actually has owned his own trucking company for about 22 years now. So the origin story is really that he was looking to solve a problem which is consistent, I think, across the industry, which is driver shortage. So he was actually looking to do a driver hiring ad here in our area of Sacramento. And he found out that he couldn't really get any inventory, any billboard space that was out along the side of the highway to be able to advertise what he was hiring for. So he was kind of like, hey, how do we change this? How do we utilize these massive 53-foot trailers that we have going down the road every day and turn those into actual displays to kind of help our business from that standpoint? So the idea was born. It actually started with a 55-inch screen Vizio TV that we implemented into the back of this trailer, wired it up. And then started playing, kind of different general ads that we could from, around the local area. And then kind of piloted another, 10 screens. And now we're up to about 100 full screens that are active on the highway right now.
And that's fascinating because there's also a platform that goes with it. That was why when I looked at the website, I was like, oh, they're putting them on the back. But there's this entire tech stack, correct, that goes into not just the advertisement, but helping you find out who's seeing it.
Correct. Yeah. And that's kind of the where our CEO comes into place. So he's been a software developer for the last 15 years. So he kind of came in with this idea of how to connect these screens to an actual platform that we could, instantaneously make changes, geofence specific advertising to, specific locations throughout the country. So it is very kind of technical in that sense to where we can, utilize that platform that's connected to all these screens via the cloud and make changes, do things like advertising by time of day, advertising by, specific geographic location. So there's a lot of kind of software component that goes into this as well.
So that's kind of like with the geofencing. That's where if I'm at a certain spot, we have actually a map as well with some of your information from the website. This is fascinating. So this is an example of some of the geofencing. If I go in a different state or a city, I can technically target my ads, right, based on where I am.
100%. Yeah. And that's been a great tool for a lot of our clients to utilize because, again, we do a lot of regional, hyper local advertising as well. And, somebody in Sacramento isn't necessarily looking to target an audience in LA or vice versa. So they don't have to, spend a budget or have a budget allocated for, billboards or things that they won't be able to utilize targeting the right audience that they want to reach. Whereas with our platform, you can, and you can get almost to the longitude latitude of where you want to go. We've done campaigns where we've done like actual truck stops where we've geofence that location, Amazon facilities, large distribution centers to be able to target specific drivers, carriers, brands, things like that in a centralized location.
I think that's fascinating. And I think the platform DOOH, Digital Out of Home, is it do or do? Kind of like The Simpsons. Do.
It's a dough. Yeah, it's a dough. It's the Bart Simpson or Homer Simpson monologue there. But yeah, digital out of home is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. So any type of media, any type of advertising marketing that you consume outside of your home. So that doesn't include, TV, I'm trying to think of like magazines, things like that. What it does include, obviously, is anything that you're going to be out and about seeing. So bus ads, right? Train stop ads, subway ads. Things like that they're commuting from to back and forth from work or to the grocery store or wherever. So gas station TV is something that has kind of been a major player in that. When you're filling up your gas, you see kind of the advertisements right there on the gas pump. So it's kind of gaining a lot of traction. It's not notoriously, but historically been, traditional billboards, right, on the side of the highway. Obviously coming into the 21st century, people are looking to utilize technology and that digital aspect of how to kind of generate more awareness, more exposure to brands and agencies that are looking for that.
Well, it kind of reminds me of just how stuck in the past. It reminds me how you had the rappers on the buses downtown. And it was always like a personal injury lawyer. So I guess if you got hit by the bus, just look at the side. Oh, I need to call that guy. Like, we're finally moving past that, right?
100%. We've actually, funny enough, done a couple of personal injury and workers' compensation lawyers. So it makes all the sense in the world.
Well, that's why I feel like if you're looking, even if you're a driver, you could have your own targeted ad saying, hey, did you make sure you secured this? And if something falls a box on you, call this number real quick.
Exactly. Yep. No, 100%.
And kind of digging in here, looking at this opens up the door for cool uses and applications. What are some of the cooler ones that you all have found out as you're developing this technology, or some cool uses or ads that you've been able to run so far?
Yeah, so we've actually done for-profit companies as well as nonprofit companies. So some of the cooler ones that we've been a part of has been the Los Angeles Angels. We did a ticket promotion campaign for them to where we actually did a geofenced area around kind of the LA County, Anaheim, Ontario Inland Empire area, to where we were, promoting tickets on the back of our trailers and our screens for, set amount of price. And what we actually did was we ran that campaign for about 6 weeks. And we were able to measure, we'll kind of get into this later, but able to measure the amount of people that saw those specific advertisements in that area, and then attributed that back to whether or not they went to the actual stadium, to Angel Stadium, to watch a game, right? So what we found is actually there was a 33% uptick or a 33% result that if they were exposed to that specific ad, they were 33% more likely to go to a game and actually went to a game. So being able to have that data, being able to have those results and being able to kind of put that into a comprehensive report to show different clients, different brands that might want to advertise with us, it was really cool to see kind of the ROI that they were receiving from that. Another one we actually just finished up as well was for Chick-fil-A. So we did a local campaign for a Chick-fil-A location here in Stockton, California, and Manteca, California, to where we geofence their specific region. So whenever a truck, one of our 100 trucks went into that specific geofence, it would begin playing that Chick-fil-A ad highlighting their, I think it was like Autumn Spice Shake, and then the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich. And then we're actually getting results right now for how many people actually took that exit, or eventually a day later, 2 days later, went into that Chick-fil-A location to purchase one of those items. So those are really cool applications that we're able to kind of utilize data, utilize the things that we have via our platform to be able to give that back to the client and say, this is exactly what happened from here.
Well, I like page views, how it's like you get page views, but now we're doing trailer views. Is that kind of one of the things where do you have to use sensors, or are you going by density? What is one of the better ways to help measure it that you all have found to help give that competitive edge?
Yeah, so it is very technical, and I would dare to say Big Brother-esque. So each cell phone in the entire world has its own unique advertiser ID. So what we do, each screen that we have on the back of these trailers is equipped with a computer, 4G Wi-Fi. It's constantly pinging off of Wi-Fi signals, open applications on a particular cell phone, and we're collecting that data. It's all anonymous data, so it doesn't know if it's you, it doesn't know if it's me, but it is attributed to an actual unique advertiser ID. And what we do is we overlay that data that we receive with a third-party data verification company that has all this data on demographics and whether or not you were in that area at that specific time of day viewing that ad, or within 150 feet of our viewing distance to be able to see what that ad was. So we kind of combine those things, overlay that data together to be able to give us a very accurate number in terms of how many impressions that we received from a specific 10-second ad play, or a campaign throughout the entire lifespan.
We have an audience demographic image I'll toss up as well from the website. I think this is fascinating. I love the details in the tech, because I didn't ever think, I know with Apple and stuff, and a lot of them, they anonymize your data, but it's so fascinating to see, like, you could theoretically do real-time demographic testing in addition to the ads, and you could probably help brands figure out that if you're going to maybe Dunkin' Donuts and you stop by the gas station, a lot of people are stopping by and fueling up, so it opens a lot of doors.
100%, and that's what advertisers are really looking for in this day and age too. Is they want to attract and reach a specific demographic in most cases, right? They don't want to just generalize the entire audience with their advertising anymore. They really want to have that impact that they want to see from the particular brand, the particular product. So being able to give them these demographics and this data, in real time is extremely, a very competitive edge for us. So it is, again, very, very interesting, very technical, and there's a lot of data that we have to sift through and make sure that we're making accurate statements. But it's been a great great tool for us and advertisers alike.
So large metropolitan, I'm assuming if I'm in Atlanta and I'm stuck in traffic, this is where you really start to see this competitive edge, because you have a captivated audience within that amount, and you're able to say, well, this amount of people has been able to see the back of this advertiser, and you can sell based on the spot. So like, does that theoretically open the door? Let's say I want to buy an ad and I've got two different companies, a pizza joint and a taco joint. I could theoretically make a geofence, and once they reach a certain mile marker, I give them the pizza joint, or I can switch to the taco joint.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we can actually do, geofencing by, again, as you said, that mile marker, right? So if there's a taco joint that's 5 miles ahead, we could almost, essentially guide people into that taco joint saying, hey, exit in 5 miles. Hey, taco joint, exit in 4 miles. Taco joint, exit in 3 miles. Just getting to that kind of, sequence of mile markers into that actual location, which is extremely, again, beneficial for, the company, because even if you're going down the highway and you see a billboard, whether that be, traditional, static or digital, you're going to pass it. Right. You're going to pass it. You might see it. You might not. What we really have a competitive edge in is dwell time. So, you could be stuck in traffic in Atlanta, right? For example, and you could see that ad, 3, 4, 5, 6 times potentially if you're stuck behind it enough. So that's what really kind of drives those buying decisions and drives that familiarity with a lot of these different brands and companies that we work with.
I like that just because, we talk about in media, I write a newsletter, we look for conversions, page views. I mean, sometimes 30 seconds to a minute, apparently in this industry, is a good deal. But if I'm hanging out going miles down the road like that I'm assuming for an advertiser, they're thinking, well, heck, they're going to look at this more and I could quantify it based on the location than if I'm just putting it out there on like a social media blurb or something. And then hopefully I get someone with the cookies that tells me, oh, I did look at it.
Right. No, 100%. And that's exactly, again, kind of a competitive advantage that we do have in that space is, I think there's a stat out there that it takes about six hits for someone to actually make a buying decision on certain things. So if we can get all those 6 hits in one fall swoop, that's obviously more advantageous from an advertising standpoint to be able to say, hey, this makes more sense to allocate my budget or my advertising money towards this platform rather than, something that's not going to get me as many hits in a specific area, as Adload could do.
And kind of digging into how does the process work with the equipment, the hardware side? Is this something where you all are currently having your own trailers and you're doing the work, or do you partner with companies and then you can install it on their trailers?
Yeah, so both. So we do have a fleet of our own trailers that we do operate. I think of about 30 trailers that we do have equipped with our screens on our own trailers. But we do also partner with third-party carriers as well. And how that process works, it's a revenue share model. So we kind of vet out our entire carrier base pretty extensively in terms of, what kind of freight that they're hauling, whether it's dedicated, if it's, a drop, live, because obviously if it's a drop situation, it really it's not as advantageous for us because if a trailer's sitting for 48 hours, 72 hours, you're not generating those impressions that we need from an advertising standpoint. So it's hard for us to be like, yeah, let's just equip your trailers and put it on there and see how it goes. So there's a very extensive process in that. And we currently are kind of, West Coast focused. So we are based in Sacramento. We have our own installation team, our own yard that kind of does all of our, wiring and installation and things here. But we do go basically from everywhere from Seattle down through Phoenix, Dallas. So the I-5 corridor, the I-10 corridor, I-80, California 99, those are big areas for us. But as we continue to expand, scale, those we're going to have to take on new facilities, take on new installation professionals, things like that. So we can kind of get this to more carrier partners that we would want to partner with. And in terms of the revenue share model as well, depending on what areas you're going to. So if you're going from LA to San Francisco every single day, that's your milk run. You do it, day after day, Monday through Friday. That's something that we're incredibly interested in because, you're getting a ton of impressions, a ton of population exposed in LA. You're going up through, potentially Bakersfield, Fresno, Modesto, Sacramento, San Francisco, right? You're getting all those impressions. So your revenue share percentage is going to be a little bit higher in those specific areas. Now, when we get to, the Arizonas and the Dallases and the Texases of the world, that's going to be a little bit less because you're going through, rural areas where you're not generating as much impressions as you are, in the major metro areas. But there's still obviously a very big value for us because we're generating impressions where potentially other billboards, other forms of media are not. So it's a great thing for our carrier partners because they're able to kind of subsidize, whether that be driver pay or truck insurance, trailer insurance, gas, anything like that, is an extremely beneficial thing for them. And it helps, especially in, to times we are right now with how the supply chain industry is kind of going.
Well, I think that's fascinating because I've talked to some startups that you see a lot of payment stuff, payment processors, new fleet cards. I always was curious, like the most clever thing in the world, the fleet payment people were trying to answer a question of what do you buy while at the truck stop? What would be fascinating to see is if, the ability theoretically to have the trailer item. You can collect the data to see who pulled into the truck stop. And then when I get out and swipe my card, I partner up to share the data. Now I can see that this actually translated from an impression to potentially a purchase, or you could at least statistically figure out that given the likelihood of this many trailers and this many purchases, we could say that we increased it by X or Y. I think that's fascinating. And I know a lot of people with the data, that's the cool thing with the data that can help make decisions. There was a lady who couldn't figure out how much Hershey's chocolate they sold at truck stops. And I was thinking, man, that'd be a great way to find out.
Absolutely, and we can integrate with all of those systems, right? We have API set up to integrate into different softwares, different platforms, so that would be an easy thing for us from a point of sale perspective. I think about like a Pilot Flying J or a Love's or these major travel stops that have so much to offer besides gas and things like that, whether that be showers, whether that be coffee, things like that. Being able to measure what happens when a driver or a motorist gets to one of those travel stops, and kind of what their life cycle is throughout that entire half hour, 45 minutes that they spend there. That would be, an ideal situation for us, and being able to expand that across the country would just be a dream come true, I think.
I feel like with truck parking, a biggest problem is a lot of drivers when they're driving, they're going down the road and they don't know where they're going to park. But you could theoretically, if I owned a bunch of Loves or Pilots, I could geofence the other trucks to tell the trucks behind them, hey, there's one coming up, or I have spots available, just a little vacant or not vacant. And that could theoretically drive me more business just using that kind of knowledge.
That, and what we've talked about before too, is with different 3PLs, like how to maximize their load board, right? So how to integrate via API to their load boards, have specific geofences, let's say in Dallas, right? And owner operators or smaller truck fleets are looking for loads out of Dallas that are decently paying, or the 3PL can't cover. How do we get that instantaneously on the back of our trailers so that other carriers, other fleets within that specific radius can kind of see, hey, okay, I see a load coming out of Fort Worth going to Denver. That's where I need to get to. I'm going to call this 3PL. I'm going to call Coyote, TQL, whoever, just to inquire about that load and see kind of what they're paying. That's another thing that we've talked about that I think could change really the scope of a lot of the human interaction, or the phone calls, the emails, the back and forth. It's almost like right there in front of you.
Well, it reminds me, if I was a 3PL, I'd treat it like an airline. You have the booking flights out. So you could come into Dallas and geofence Dallas, and you could say, Watson Logistics loads out. Find these destinations, call this number or QR code, and then bada bing. That's really fascinating. Final thoughts on terms of location. Right now it's on the back. Drop trailers and stuff. I wonder, is there value on the sides, or are there more hurdles to overcome placing it in other parts of the trailer?
There are hurdles to overcome, and what we've kind of done in terms of like a research and development is that not as many people see. We've thought about putting screens on the side. Let's say there's not as many people that are viewing that. Going down the road, specifically when you're behind that trailer, right? You might go past it and you might look up and you might see, that screen there, but you're not generating as many impressions, as many eyeballs as you would, directly in the back of it. And then as far as the size, we've also kind of contemplated that as well. Do we make it a little bit bigger? Given certain regulations and things like that, how can we, how much can we get away with in terms of, not being as distracted as we want to for potential drivers. But this has just kind of been, the prototype that has really worked for us. And, we're looking to potentially expand into, delivery vehicles, box trucks, roll doors, things like that in the future. We obviously just want to have a proof of concept in this space and then kind of grow it from there.
And then also thinking about advertiser feedback so far. I know you've been working with a few like Chick-fil-A. What's some of the early impressions in terms of using this? I know for most advertisers, this is probably more of a novel concept than what they're used to doing for big ad buys or even things like a podcast.
Yeah, so that's been the feedback has really been positive overall from an advertiser standpoint. Specifically, the work that we've done with nonprofits, and I'll just kind of plug that for a minute. But we've worked with like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We've worked with foster care. We've worked with the Anti-Predator Project. All of these. Nonprofits that really have a drive for awareness on the things that they're doing. So National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, right? They unfortunately have children and teens that go missing, almost on a daily basis. They actually provide their posters and provide, a tip call line to be able to call, and we can get that instantaneously up on our platform of 100 trucks that are going throughout the entire West Coast immediately. So we can generate that exposure, generate that awareness in truck stops where, human trafficking is unfortunately a big part of where people stop and get gas and go to the bathroom and everything like that. So that's been a big component of what we want to do and we want to kind of help out with. So that feedback has been great. And then from just a generalized advertiser standpoint, they love the concept because it is, it checks all the boxes, right? It's digital. You're able to change it instantaneously. It's mobile. So it has been very positive from their perspective too.
Perfect. Dustin, thanks for coming on. We'll definitely have to check out you all, the Adload, adload.com, right?
Adloadtechnologies.com. Yep.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Dustin. Thanks again for coming on, and we'll be keeping an eye out. That's going to be a wrap for today, but check out the newsletter Wednesdays and Saturdays and join us next week at 1 p.m. because we'll do it live.